today I continue my look back, my retro look at war games and wargaming. Started off with Rostov and some other games, and now I'm looking at the Drive on Metz. Now, this game's been around. This was originally published, I believe, in 1980 as part of a book. It was published in James Dunnigan's The Complete Wargame Handbook, and it was kind of put in there to show, how war games are developed and kind of the nature of war games. So this is, by its nature, going to be somewhat of a more simple or easier to access war game. But then it was republished in like 20 plus years later in the C3I magazine, and also published by Victory Point Games, and this is my Victory Point Games version of it. Again, the game design is James F. Dunnigan. If you're not familiar with that name, then I suggest you do some more research, because he is one of the he might very well be on the kind of the Mount Rushmore of wargaming, up there with Charles S. Roberts and James F. Dunnigan, and I don't know, what are the other two heads? You guys and gals, let me know what you think are the other heads on that Mount Rushmore of wargaming. But James Dunnigan was the the driving force behind SPI, which was SPI and Avalon Hill were the two major informative wargame publishers in the 60s, 70s, into the 80s type time frame. Development and graphic design is Alan Emmerich, and Alan Emmerich was I think the proprietor of Victory Point Games, which is a good game company. I mean, it was. I don't know what the current status of Victory Point Games is today. I don't know if they're still making stuff or if they're kind of, a lot of their games, I think, have been kind of gobbled up by some of the other publishers. I know their States of Siege system, Worthington is publishing a lot of it, but Alan Emmerich has been involved in a lot of different games, and then he was kind of the driving force behind Victory Point Games, which started off kind of as a, focusing on design of the games and not so much the, production quality. Some of the games, they were all decent, but they weren't your big box war game type production quality. And then over time they got better quality, and then including better games. So, and I don't really know what their fate is. If you know that, feel free to put that into the comments as well. And it says right here, originally published in War Games Handbook down there on the bottom in 1980. So this was part of the Victory Point Games Battleson system or series. This is Battleson number 2. I don't know how many found their way into this series. I think this is the only one I have of that. Again, this is very much kind of an intro to wargaming type game. It's kind of your standard hex encounter with a very straightforward mechanics. So let's take a look at the back of the bag here. Oh, another thing, Victory Point Games, a lot of them came in these little Ziploc baggies. They eventually started coming in some boxes with a slip cover, and then actually boxes. But this was some of how their earliest games were, and several of the ones that I have from them have several from Victory Point Games. This is how they came. The Drive on Metz is a 2-player game. Do I got some glare there? Okay, good. Is a 2-player game recreating General George S. Patton's attempt to seize the key city of Metz and to get across the Moselle River before retreating Germans could form an effective defense. The American forces, comprised of 3 divisions of the 20 Corps, had just completed an epic pursuit across France after the Allied breakout from Normandy beachhead. The exhausted Allied forces were at the end of their supply line and had barely enough resources left for one last push. The defending German forces, 4 divisions of the 82nd Corps of the German First Army, were a combination of hastily collected and organized units, including fresh units from the German interior and remnants of units that Patton had been pursuing across France. The battle, which began on 7 September 1944 and lasted for about a week, was a singular opportunity that could have gone either way. And if I've done my math correctly, I'm posting this on September 7th, or I hope close to there too. I'm doing a little bit of pre-release here, so goes into my special day playlist if I plan my publishing right. Number of players is 2, ages 12 and up. Playing time is approximately 40 minutes. Complexity is 3 on this scale of what is that, like 10 maybe? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So 9, 3 of 9. I don't know if it's really that complex, but anyway, war games are war games, so they're going to have some inherent complexity in there. Solitaire suitability is 8. That means there must not be hidden information in here. Scale: each unit is 1 regiment or brigade. Each hex is 4 kilometers, and each turn is 1 day. And there's an example of the counters right there. So let's get into this. And if any of you have played any of the versions, whether it was the handbook version, which I imagine would be a little bit of a do-it-yourself. I've got some games or books, war game books that have games in them, and you kind of have to do it yourself to recreate them. Or if you played the C3I, or if you played this version, love to hear your thoughts on any of that. So here's your game setup. It's kind of nice how it's not totally wasted space with the cover here, because you've got your game set up there and a little bit of an abbreviation or index here at the bottom. Then we have the counters. I have played this. It's been a while, but here's an example of the counters. And the counters weren't bad. I mean, they're decent thickness. You know, I'm not a clipper, and there are some nibs on here that's probably driving some people crazy, but to me, they're perfectly fine, and they're large enough and crisp enough that, you know, I think they're fine. Now, they're only single-sided or single-printed. All right. Then we have the map here. Then we have an ad on the back for some of the other Victory Point games. As you can see here, here's an example of their games. And they went beyond war games, kind of like Avalon Hill did. There's a lot of sci-fi and space, and here's Nemo's War, which, you know, that's been republished several different times, and excellent solitaire game. If you want to get that, that's still available. I think that's in coordination with a different publisher, or maybe Victory Point Games is still managing that. And they have family games here. Here's Climbing Mount Everest, Circus Train, The Great Divide, Loot and Scoot. So they had some other type games as well. So, you know, they really did branch out quite a bit over their course of their history. So here are the rules. So we've got, oh, that's cool. So here's a sample turn. That's kind of cool. So you have a how to play. So the rules themselves are 6 pages, triple column color. There's Mr. Dunnigan himself. Here's that handbook. That was the 3rd edition. I think the 1st edition was 1980. So, so triple column rules with some color in here. Here's explaining the counters. Combat strength, movement allowance, relatively basic in that regard. And so you have your introduction, game equipment. You've got sequence of play. I mean, again, there's not a lot there, right? This is a relatively easy to get to war game. Here's starting the game, how to win. I'm gonna go up a little bit so you can see a little bit better here. Movement of units, zones of control. Got to have zones of control. Here's reinforcements. Combat step, setup, resolving combat, and there you have it. So resolving combat is 2 columns out of this whole thing. So not that complex of a game, as you can see. And here is a, oh, what's this? This is, oh, these are the last 2 pages. That's kind of weird. So, oh, optional rules. So we have optional rules here. And player notes. So, yeah, so 6 pages of rules, but really 4 plus page 5 is mostly optional rules, and 6 is notes. Here is the how to play, a sample turn and strategy note. So that's a neat little addition here. So this is a relatively in-depth play-by-play talking about the units and how they enter and what you want to do with it. So this right here is 4 pages, triple column, and is all about how to play the game. And it's not that complicated game anyway, but between the complexity level being low and having this how to play or sample turns, this would be a great introduction to someone to wargaming. You know, that they're ready to push some hexes, counters around some hexes, and this is a way to do it. Just do this walkthrough, and you're really probably gonna, you know, if you don't like the hobby after this, then I don't know what to tell you. Now let's take a look at the map. Now the map here is it's on a little bit thicker paper. I mean, it's not mounted by any stretch, or not those big thick card stock type maps, but it's not a full paper map either. It is thicker. It's in between paper and a thick card stock. And as you can see here, you're going to have all the stuff that you need on the map itself here. Let's do a little bit different here. So you've got, I mean, the map is nice looking, I think. I mean, you've got clear, the terrain is clearly demarked between rough, clear, and forest. You got some rough, forest, and clear here. You've got some city or towns as well. A lot of road network here. Here's Metz, your objective. You've got a turn track here, game turn and record track. Keeps track of some stuff here. You got a victory point condition here. Here's a victory point schedule here. Here's your terrain effects that not only has the symbol, the terrain name, the movement factor, combat effect. Here's your combat results table. Here's your results of the combat results table. Here's your sequence of play. I mean, everything is very nicely put on one map here. And here's your victory point track to keep track of your victory points. So relatively nice and self-contained here. I don't know, I don't have the war game handbook version or looked at that, so I don't know how much they changed it. I imagine this looks somewhat similar. The C3I edition probably looks very similar to this. C3I is really good about laying stuff out. But I don't know, your mileage may vary, or you might have a different opinion of it. So feel free to comment on what you think about this version, or the C3I, or the handbook version. If you have any of those or played any of those, feel free to put comments down below. But there you have it. That is the map for Drive on Metz. Here are the counters that I've got bagged still. Here's your setup chart for it, and here are the rules for it, and then also a play-by-play or sample turn for it as well. So quite a bit there, although it's not an overly complex game to begin with. Anyway, love to know your thoughts on this design, or any of its different versions. It looks like it has at least 3 different versions. Love to know your thoughts on that if you played it, or on this Battle system or series. I don't know what else is in there. I think, again, I have to go back and look at my collection. I think this is the only thing I have from them. But if you have any thoughts or comments on that, I'd appreciate that, you sharing that with all of us. Anyway, that's what I have for you today. Thanks for spending some time with me as I look back. Take care. Thanks for watching.